welcome to Past, Present, and Future, or Three Questions, the podcast where we learn about people's career journeys, how they got to where they are today, and where they'd like to go to next. I'm Parrots Cohen, a technologist and a wordsmith, and in my time in industry, I've been fortunate to work with both large companies and small startups, alongside a number of very talented and hardworking individuals. This podcast is some of my conversations with them, where we learn about their journeys and what motivates them. If you'd like to be in the podcast, please feel free to reach out. You don't have to have a certain level of seniority or a number of years of experience. We all have something to share and learn from each other. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast or get involved in the collaboration, we'd also like to hear from you. All right, looking forward to our journey together as we learn more about each other and enrich ourselves in the process.
Hello, everyone. Today we have an amazing guest with us on the show. We have Dan. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start at the beginning. We'd love to hear about some of the early moments and pivotal changes within the earlier parts of your career.
Okay, cool. So I've been working now for 17 years. My first job was in PR. I was a graduate at WPP. At the time, I just was really fascinated with the idea of how you pitch stories to the press and how the press would write about you. This was kind of before the internet was truly a place where we spend a lot of time and focus. And the best part about that part of my career was like really understanding how to craft a story, how to convince somebody else that that story is good enough or sharp enough or interesting enough to write about. And then also just the notion of two-way communication. So sometimes you'll have an intent when you communicate, but the way it's perceived or written by somebody else maybe is slightly different, and you'll understand why that became more important to me throughout my career. But this was also a point in time where the internet was becoming more part of our lives, and social media was starting to be talked about, mainly in Silicon Valley, maybe in tech circles. But because I'd always loved the internet, very online person, somebody who's really into subcultures, I kind of really found my place on the internet. And when I saw social media and how businesses were using it to connect for the first time with customers or to promote themselves, I just, for some reason, I took the decision, which was, looking back, very lucky to kind of really obsess about it. So at the agency I worked at, WPP, I tried to position myself as the expert. So I would go to the right events, I would consume the right media, follow the right people, just really obsessed about learning about social media. And it was just a really good decision because the more I learned and the bigger it became, the more things started to gravitate towards me. So I went from WPP then to Adidas or Adidas, depending on where you are in the world. I was their first social media hire. At the time, we didn't really know what we were doing with social media. We just, as a brand, focused on youth that like to innovate in new ways with marketing and advertising, just felt like the right time to start building competence in the area. And like I said, very fortunate, very lucky, because as social media became more mainstream and a place where you would do more than just communicate, you could do marketing, commerce, AR, whatever it may be. My career just kind of rode that wave. So I went across different parts of the world, from UK to Germany to the US to China, and always in more senior roles, and eventually built up the global social media community and creative marketing function for Adidas. Then I left, and at this point, I'd kind of done agency and I'd done brand and all these different roles, but I'd never done platform, having spent the last 10 years really working with Meta and Google and Snap. And I always said to myself, the next time I see one of these platforms that's coming up, I would love the chance to experience that and complete my understanding of social media from all different ways that you could work in it. And I saw this press story in New York Times, and it was about this app called TikTok, and it was positioning itself as the last bright spot on the internet. It was very movement based at the time, with lip syncing and dancing. So I reached out to the team, explained my background, that I understood brands, but also I understood social. Got very lucky. They hired me to run social and community, first out of the UK for TikTok, and then very similar to Adidas, I kind of rode the growth of TikTok. And by the time I left ByteDance, I was running social community across all of the apps. So live commerce, shopping, and so on. And then finally, I spent a bit of time in video gaming. I thought video gaming would be the next form of social media, which is very true. So if you think about Roblox or Fortnite, people spend time there and connect with friends. So I just thought that would be the next big wave. But actually, social media and video gaming has kind of grown in parallel. And then for the last year, finally, I've been working on my own project as a first-time founder. I'm building a product called Meet-Ting, which is all about helping get more people and businesses together using AI.
For me, that's fascinating because it's not just a description of your career; it's a description of like a journey of you saw a trend, you saw a sociological development of social media and its place in our lives and our businesses, and you studied that, and you're like, "Hey, this is my first role. I'm going to deep dive into this." And then you were able to kind of to take that skill set and project it into new roles, new environments, whether kind of from a more consumer brand and then all the way to the platform itself. And I think
100%.
that's really powerful. That's like a compelling theme of like understanding, trying to kind of a little bit of reading the tea leaves, but more just kind of following your curiosity to see kind of how it can kind of impact lives, communities, businesses, and doing that at scale. So that's extremely powerful, and I think definitely kind of very resonant for me personally, and for the audience as well. Of kind of that there is a power in following your interests and kind of following your curiosity.
I think 100%, and like two thoughts come from that. One, we kind of briefly talked about this off podcast, but following the things that you care about, right? So like when you care about something and you're curious about something, for me, still to this day, anything to do with social media doesn't feel like work. So honestly, I'm love studying the algorithms. I love seeing how people are connected. I love seeing the trends. So I find joy in my craft still to this day. And then fast forward to the present day, same with AI. So right now, I always say that I feel like this 17 years ago when social media was starting to become this more mainstream topic, and there was all this activity happening and companies opening up. Same is happening right now with AI. So imagine if you begin to kind of really follow the right people, read the right media, just immerse yourself in AI, and especially from a career standpoint. Imagine what's going to happen in 17 years, right? You know, it compounds this educational and curiosity. So if you are listening and you're maybe thinking about a new opportunity, or what might be a good opportunity in the future, I think it's such an amazing time to really lean into AI and use it as a way to build authority and experience.
I really kind of like seizing on one of the things you said of like it really kind of it is like it's an investment of sorts, and there is kind of that a creative kind of compound interest kind of style
Yes.
of investing and understanding the space. And the more you understand one aspect of it is it kind of it builds on itself. You may understand kind of the initial kind of, let's say, chat level layer of working with AI. When you start to understand some of the infrastructure, some of the applications and the workflows, and that just kind of builds and kind of and compounds. Um,
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me, just personally, I'm more of a quiet voice in the room. So I always have been. It's just my personality. And I find my authority, or I find my confidence from knowing things or understanding things. So for me, it's great for my curiosity and joy of craft. But actually, I found it made me more useful and allowed me to open doors and climb the corporate ladder, because I was like the person you would go to when you had a question about this topic. So I think in lots of different ways, depending on what personality style you have, for me, it just kind of gave me the confidence I lack maybe naturally as just somebody kind of growing through the ranks and in these big corporate environments.
I think that's a very powerful point. I think, and this may just maybe me personally, but I think sometimes there's a perception in being me and being a subject matter expert that it does kind of lock or limit some of kind of your career opportunities. But I think in the way that you're explaining it, when you use it as a tool to open doors, to facilitate conversations, that can actually be a path for of career growth in and of itself. And you're not kind of stuck just kind of in a narrow functional or kind of tactical lane. You're actually a linchpin of sorts. And that for me is kind of something that came up from
Yeah.
what you were saying, something that I kind of sensed as you were talking about it.
I think funnily enough, I don't know if AI and social are the exceptions to the rule, but I remember so I've now spent many years in social media, and I've built very large teams, and I've managed lots of people becoming social media managers or senior social media managers. And everyone is always like, oh, but I want to go and do marketing, or I want to go and do, they always feel like they don't want to be trapped in the social box. But if you think about it, like almost social media now is as a marketing channel is the most overpassed TV last year. So it's sometimes things might feel niche because you're in it. But I know right now, in terms of if you ask any startup or founder what are the most important channels they have for reaching their customer, they'll say social and creators. So sometimes things may feel small at the time and you may feel boxed in, but if you zoom out and have it and think about just how much impact or time or attention these channels have, actually they're some of the most important channels. And that's what I mean. Maybe it's the exception, not the rule, but I think thinking about the channel and its growing importance sometimes might be more expansive than you realize.
Taking a step back is definitely really important, and I think in social specifically, and AI similarly, it's kind of these platforms that are, if we're going to use marketing parlance, like taking over more of the funnel, not just kind of an
Yes,
awareness, but it's more the consideration, it's the conversion too, and like
100%.
as the technology grows and you can interact with experiences within these apps, it really just kind of, and like apps like TikTok expanding into different verticals, you are the whole funnel in some
Exactly.
cases.
Live shopping, AR, everything. Yeah.
Let's shift a little bit to talk about Ting. Would love to kind of to share with the audience a brief overview of kind of how powerful Ting is. I'll say it's also very easy to use. You can kind of just CC Ting and it's in your inbox, but I'll pass it over
Yeah.
to you to talk about Ting.
Yeah, it's maybe a funny origin story. So now you understand my career a little bit. So my career took me to big brands, big platforms, big agencies all around the world in different countries, and then obviously I went from a junior to someone who's more senior and now a founder. In every single role, in every single country, still to this day, and still to this morning, I'll get the same emails when I wake up, and it's, "Hey, can't make today," or "Hey, can we reschedule?" or "Hey, can we push?" And the origin story for Ting was I was, spending like 5 or 10 minutes every morning, which sounds very trivial, but stick with me, just rescheduling and replanning my calendar. So I thought to myself, okay, well, this is happening to me, and it's 5 or 10 minutes per day. Sometimes it's important, like it's an important project, and sometimes it's just a one-to-one, so no problem. But then what about my team? Let's say there's seven of them, 10 minutes every day. How much time are they losing? Then my entire company, then the category that I work in, the industry, and then just the working world at large. Every single day, we're spending 5 to 10 minutes just shuffling around in each other's calendars. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, sometimes we use software, but it's just this big broken mess. So one of those particular mornings, I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be amazing if I could CC an AI into the email thread where there's a reschedule or there's a meeting that's gone off the rails, and the AI knows my calendar, it understands the context of the email thread, and it just manages it for me. So all I have to do is CC in my agent, and the meeting will happen, and I don't have to worry about it. And basically, that's what we built. So we built an AI. This was a year ago now, so it feels more common now, but a year ago, most AI experiences were you would chat to ChatGPT in a chat window on a web browser, or same for Gemini. But what we managed to do was bring AI into an email. So all you have to do is CC in an email address. And then also at the same time, most AI was just used to talking to one person, just to you. So we had to give it the functionality to be able to coordinate with groups of people, because some meetings are 2 people, some meetings are 5 people. So basically, you can CC in Ting in any email. It understands the thread. It knows your calendar. It has some memories about your preferences and how you like your week to be. And then it will manage the group for you. It can reach consensus. And then it goes ahead and puts a meeting on the calendar, sends the invite. And if someone wants to reschedule, which happens 40% of the time in meetings at large, it will just reset it automatically for everybody. So Yeah, it's the first step towards intelligent coordination and automating meetings. We have a much bigger plan in the future, but right now that's what it is. Or you could also text it on WhatsApp or SMS, and it will do the same thing.
I will say for me as a program manager, there are parts in my careers when I was organizing large international calls, and this is before tools like ChatGPT were more relevant. So I would sit on one of these kind of sites where it's like, what are the different time zones, and how do
Oh
I
God,
arrange a
yeah.
call that fits with Japan, Germany, and the US? And it's a lot of work, and having kind of just that restoring not just the time but the mental capacity and bandwidth
Yes.
allows you to do other things, and definitely a very powerful tool and very easy to get started with. So really, really cool to learn about.
So right now, what Ting tries to do is, without you needing to provide more information or download an app or whatever it may be, Ting will build a picture of who you are, what you value, and how you make decisions. And that could be by looking at your last 200 emails, or it could be looking at your last 2 months of calendar activity. And if you think about it, most people's calendars, I always say your calendar knows more about you than TikTok, because within your calendar, it's wherever you spend your time is like a proxy for what's important. Same for who you spend your time with. So what we're betting on is basically per user building up this idea of how they make decisions, who's important in their network, and then what their priorities are, what their preferences are. And once we understand that, like theoretically, any decision about your time, we can help make it for you. But obviously, doing that overnight can be kind of scary and intrusive. So step one for us was, okay, you opt in by CCing in an AI to the email thread, and then for us, by being CC'd into the email thread, we start understanding a little bit about that meeting, the context around it, maybe some decision making. And then what we start to do is every week we provide an update of what your week looks like to help you plan ahead. We identify busy days or light days, and we try to look at your how you make decisions and your priorities, and we'll make a couple of suggestions. So we'll say something like, there's an internal meeting on Tuesday, and if you move it to Thursday, you'll get 4 hours of deep work time. Like if there's somebody who appreciates deep work time, and all they have to do is say yes, and then Ting will go off and make that update and or manage with guests if needed. So now we're moving from this reactive mode where you have to CC to this proactive mode where we're taking what we've learned from you, and we're playing it back to you and giving you an opportunity for us to say yes or no to that decision making. Then over time, where we want to get to, whereas I think we start to really save people time, is this autonomous state. We've built enough trust, we've built enough understanding, and we've been reliable, and we've got it right enough times for you to say, just figure it out for me. So we're close to getting to that phase, but it does take trust, reliability. It takes really complete understanding of the person. But when we get there, theoretically on a Sunday, you could basically say yes, and then Ting will go and completely replan your schedule according to your needs. But that right now really helps a single user. But the bigger problem that we need to solve is, how do you do that in large networks? Because we need a deep understanding of everybody's time, not just your time, to make it really intelligent. So once we've really solved this user problem, then we're going to start thinking about the network. And then if you go back to my origin story of waking up every day and having to deal with all these scheduling emails, if we can build to a world where calendars can just talk to each other with a shared understanding of the priority of both sides, then time can resolve itself, and we can all be where we need to be on our own terms.
There's a lot of like fascinating complexity in that because people have different preferences of ways of working. But I think a lot of the things that modern teams deal with kind of having too many meetings or not enough meetings, or kind of that kind of lack of time for focused work, I think once you're able to do that at scale, really kind of unlocks a lot of opportunities, and it translates into the products and outputs that teams create when they're able to work more efficiently in a way that actually works better for them and can have that all streamlined. And also just love the progression from kind of the more like hands-on kind of human assist to kind of fully automated mode that really kind of, because when you're kind of, it's like managing a direct report. Like if you can know that, kind of have the confidence to go out and do it the way it needs to, like you relieve even that kind of level of burden and bandwidth, which is incredible.
And that, to be honest, that's exactly how we comp it to like a real life relationship. So when you first, let's say you have an executive assistant, when you first get that executive assistant, you're not used to asking them to do stuff for you, and they don't know you very well, right? But then after 1 or 2 months, you spend a lot of time together. The executive assistant starts to build a picture of who you are and what you care about, and then they go from this entry level or first time or new hire to sophisticated and senior. And then the more time you spend together and the more time that you build trust, you start to consider bigger elements of your workday that maybe you want to hand over. And then you get to like a super EA, right? The one that you feel like you've known forever and you can't live without. So we think about development in the same way that you would build a relationship with a person who over time, trust, reliability, confidence in their ability. So yeah, it's my CTO, Mariana, thinks about it very similar to how you laid it out.
It's powerful, and excited to see where it goes. And we'll share with folks links for how to use the product and to learn more. Um, One last question I wanted to ask you. You're a student of social media and ecosystems. I think we're at a very unique inflection point. We have kind of, you mentioned the corollary rise of video gaming as kind of a community
Yeah,
aspect. We have AI companies trying to involve themselves in social media in certain forms, whether that's through content creation or standalone apps. It does kind of remind me of kind of like Google Buzz in a way, of like kind of different industries trying to understand different verticals. um, and then the concept of social media itself. You have projects
yeah,
like Blue Sky, and you have kind of the shifting that's happening at X, and different platforms kind of shifting in different ways, or TikTok kind of very horizontally expanding.
yeah.
Do you think, from your experience, do you think some of these other headwinds, whether it's mixed reality or AI or kind of the rise of video gaming, will fundamentally reshape how social media exists? Or because of how they're built, they're kind of always going to kind of be a layer or an interface? The kind of the core concept of social media works because it is the way it is. And this is like, I don't have like
Yeah.
a full kind of like
Well,
thesis or kind of I'm just curious in terms of like what you've seen and how these develop and how it takes off, of what could the potential future look like.
uh, I don't know, but when I figure it out, let's make it and make billions of dollars and pounds. I think I think so. Social media has been around for 20. Like I did a presentation years ago, and actually the letter was the first form of social media. Right? It was you wrote in a letter, sent it to somebody, and it allowed you to communicate with somebody else. But anyway, this notion of connection and using media to connect with others, I think is just really important. And don't get me wrong, there's bad stuff, right? And there's a dark side to social as well as a positive side. But I think it fills a very human need for us to be together and to communicate. So I think it will continue. The only tailwinds that I see are, and from my own experience as well, I've started to notice that more of the engagement is clearly AI, and sometimes when you get comments, they are not the person. And there's the clear markers that it's not how they would write or say. So I think we're all still there because it's important, but they're all there's this infiltration of AI, and sometimes it's with the best of intentions, and sometimes it's with not good intentions. So I think either the platforms will, some of them will have more radical policies, right? It's true human only creation because we want that, right? And that'll be their policy. There'll be other platforms where we're happy with a level of augmentation, maybe on TikTok and on Reels. Actually, AI generated videos are fun and they're entertainment. But maybe if it's like a LinkedIn or an X or somewhere where actually we're being there to communicate with others and share our thoughts and feelings, maybe that will go to this like more pure human state. So yeah, I guess maybe the index in the future is just who's allowed in, right? Like, is it AI only, right? Like Maltbook, which is really fun, like really fun, or is it AI plus human, which kind of feels like LinkedIn and X right now, or is it just human only? But anyway, yeah, I think maybe it's the user base where we get the innovation and diversity in the future.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, it's less of like the platforms or the technology itself shifting, but it's a fundamental question of what qualifies as human discourse or human communication. Can
Yes.
we augment it with AI? Can we integrate that? Or do we kind of go to a more kind of exclusionary policy. And I think that you said it like very kind of intelligently, like what's the use case? If it's just for entertainment, then
Yeah.
I want to see a cow with 16 legs. Like that's entertaining to me.
Yes.
As opposed to LinkedIn, like you want kind of more that kind of genuine kind of conversation and communication.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah, the way that you laid it out, 100%. Yeah, what's the pastime or the need, and then I think that will then determine, um, what that looks like and who's involved. Like for example, Discord is very people centric, right? It's a true community platform, and maybe there's communities that are happy to have lots more bots, but I think you'll find that people are there to connect with others and have discourse. So yeah, I think depending on what you're looking for, the intent, that will shape the experience.
and I think having more useful bots, like what you're doing with Ting, will go to that trust factor. So people will want to have because that's a helpful bot. But if it's a bot that's just like adding noise, I think that kind of distinguishes and changes people's perception of having that integration and that augmentation.
Yeah, maybe this is too big a thought to end on, but like what I find is really interesting right now is everyone is automating, right? So Ting is helping you automate meeting bookings. Tools like HubSpot are helping you automate sales messages. So basically, persuasion is being automated. So everyone's inboxes are just full of automation. So I just wonder at what point in time there'll be like the counterbalance. Like we did talk about maybe Ting is like the shield for automation. So it helps protect your time and it manages all this agent to agent coordination. But yeah, I do also wonder as the whole world automates and we're still only one person with one brain with like only 24 hours in the day, what that looks like and what solutions or tech we use to help just get through the day.
Yeah, that's very relevant. I was doing some workflows on Zapier the other day. I never know if I pronounced the name correctly.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that, yeah, me too. Same.
but it was like suggesting like, hey, you can sign up to this service and we'll filter the emails for you.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen one. Yeah, I've had a few of those. Yeah.
So it's there's definitely a lot of like opportunities and kind of just in all those core workflows and how we do it and like with like meeting notes and Granola is doing a lot of cool things, but there's a lot of kind of corollary products and figuring out kind of what makes the most sense and how that like the workplace suite of the future, I think is that
Yeah.
next level and that next layer.
100%. 100%.
Thank you so much for joining the show. This is a really fascinating conversation and I appreciate your time.
Likewise. Thank you very much.